Have you ever felt like you were praying into an empty sky, wondering if God had quietly walked out of your life? That is exactly how Aisha felt. At 28, she had just lost the job she depended on. The person she loved had walked away without looking back, and her father's health was fading a little more every week. The girl who once believed every prayer was heard now stared at the ceiling in the dark, feeling nothing but silence pressing on her chest. In a moment of honesty, she whispered, "If you're there, why does it feel like I'm completely alone?" She had no idea that one encounter and a task was about to answer her question. Aisha's city never slept. Crowded streets overflow with people and noise. Motorcycles weaving through traffic, horns blaring in impatient bursts, billboards and phone screens glowing like artificial stars. Yet inside, she felt numb, as if someone had turned the volume of her heart all the way down. In her tiny apartment, unfinished prayers hung in the air, her old prayer mat folded neatly in a corner, gathering dust. Her phone lit up with messages from friends, but she let them sit unread, avoiding every invitation, every "how are you?" She skipped places of worship, scrolled past verses and quotes, telling herself, "Faith is for people God listens to, not me." She didn't know that one meeting would soon challenge everything. At night, when the city finally softened to a low hum, Aisha's mind grew louder. She lay awake, replaying every unanswered prayer like a broken recording. She remembered the nights she begged God to heal her father, to save her relationship, to open just one door for her future, and nothing seemed to happen. On her phone, she scrolled past people thanking God for promotions, healed marriages, miracle babies. Each joyful post stabbed a little deeper, as if heaven had a guest list and her name wasn't on it. Her journal filled with questions that felt dangerous to write. Did I do something wrong? Are you punishing me? Or were you never really there? She tried to stop believing, yet half-formed prayers still slipped out, leaving her feeling foolish. The stress settled in her body, headaches, a tight chest, and exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. One evening, suffocating in that tiny room, she suddenly put on her shoes and stepped out into the night, telling herself she needed air, not knowing she was walking toward the answer she begged for. Aisha walks without direction, letting the cool night air hit her face as the city lights blur into streaks. Eventually, her steps slow in front of an old courtyard garden attached to a small house of worship she used to visit with her grandmother. Memories tug at her, but she doesn't go in to pray. Instead, she slips into the quiet garden and sinks onto a worn stone bench, staring at the ground, feeling strangely close to God and furious with Him at the same time. An elderly groundskeeper notices her gentle eyes, careful steps, and instead of asking what's wrong, he simply sits a short distance away in silence. After a long pause, he says softly, "You look like someone who thinks they've been forgotten." She exhales, "I think God left me." He doesn't argue. He just asks for a favor. The groundskeeper leads Aisha to a shaded corner of the courtyard, where two long rows of clay pots sit side by side, the soil in them dry, cracked, and lifeless. He picks up a small watering can, presses it gently into her hands, and says, "I've been too weak lately. Would you water these for me every evening this week? Don't skip a day, no matter how you feel." She frowns, confused. It seems like such a pointless task, yet she's too tired to argue, so she nods. The next evening she returns, heart as heavy as the can in her hand, and pours water over soil that looks exactly the same brown, stubborn dead. Just like my prayers, she thinks. Nothing changes. By the fourth day, frustration rises. What's the point of watering what will never grow? Still, his quiet trust echoes in her mind, and she comes back again. On the seventh evening, as the sun dips low, she freezes. In one row, tiny green shoots push bravely through the soil, while the other row remains completely bare. The groundskeeper notices the way Aisha's eyes widen and smiles gently. He explains that weeks ago he planted seeds in only one of the rows. The other row holds nothing beneath the surface. "You watered both," he says softly, "even when you saw no change. Why did you keep coming?" Aisha hesitates, then shrugs. "Because you asked me to." I assumed you knew what you were doing. He nods. Exactly. The silence of the soil didn't mean nothing was happening. Roots were forming where you could not see. And in some pots, there was never meant to be growth, no matter how much water you poured. He lets the words sink in, then adds, many hearts leave God just before the first green shoot appears. Often his quiet is hidden work, and his no is protection, not rejection for you. Something shifts in Aisha. The courtyard is the same. The city is the same. Her father is still unwell, and her bank account hasn't magically filled up. But the story she tells herself about God begins to change. Maybe his quiet wasn't cruelty, but a season of roots growing in the dark. She starts to pray again, not with perfect religious words, but with shaky, honest ones. I don't understand, but stay with me. Slowly, she notices small green shoots in her own life. A friend who calls exactly when she's breaking, an unexpected job interview, nights where she finally sleeps a little deeper. Months later, her life is not perfect, but she can finally see how God carried her through. When life feels silent, it may not mean that God has left you. It may be the season when roots are forming beneath the surface. Think of one moment you felt abandoned, only to later see a hidden blessing or lesson. Keep watering your faith for just one more day, and share, and subscribe if this story renewed your hope today.